Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another Genshin Impact reaction. Today we have Infinite Cosmodynamics, which is a pretty badass name. This one was requested by Mastrian Alt. I'm not sure if that's exactly how you say your name, but I tried my best. But yeah, apparently this one's from the more recent album, so it's going to sound maybe a little bit different than what I've been getting to recently, but it's all been good the whole time I've done Genshin stuff, so I'm not picky at all where the music comes from as long as it sounds great. So I won't know if that's the case if I don't listen. So without further ado, let's go. I love it when you can hear the pedal of the piano. Like we can hear them messing around with the actual dynamics. I love it when they leave that in. Oh. God, what a way to reintroduce a root note, huh? It's so bouncy. It sounds like the wind. That's all this sounds like. It's like a bunch of fairies dancing in the night sky. God, I'm loving how this sounds. There's something so tactile about it. It's probably the piano. It's just so present. So letting that low resonance play. Woo. Is this a motif of something? I feel like I recognize this. It's so pretty. Just a little bit of dissonance in there. Oh, and they end on that? They end on the dissonance. That's really interesting. It didn't resolve. That kind of threw me off, actually. I can't believe I almost missed what that song was. I was, like, bothered by it. I had to go back and look at prior videos I had done. I went through about 3 or 4 of them from recent memory until I got to literally last week, and it was Night's Crown of Flowers. Of course I remember that theme. I loved it so much. I was like, why do I remember this theme so well? Because it, like, cemented itself in my memory, but I guess it didn't carry the memory of the name of what song it was. I just remembered the melody, which is pretty par for the course in my brain. I usually don't remember names of things, but I do remember details. I do the same thing with people. I remember faces like crazy, but I do not remember people's names. I'll be like, that one. But I'll be able to see them and pick them out of a line, a crowd, no problem at all. But this song was gorgeous. This arrangement was gorgeous. Putting that theme in there made it feel even more like it was pulling at the heartstrings. I'm not sure exactly why it felt that way. I feel like the entire song just being softer kind of gives it that. It's a lot more broken down. There's just things going on in this song that feel beautiful. Like the simplicity of having the raw piano recording with the pedal sounds and everything left alone. They've done that before in other Genshin music, but for this one, it just hit different for some reason. The root note, that extremely deep focus on the root note right away, kind of acting as an emotional anchor as well. That was beautiful, brilliant choice there on the composer's side. And then, of course, bringing back in all of that motif work in there. I love their inclusion of that. It's kind of a bummer I didn't really recognize it until that vocal part, but that vocal part is definitely the most like obvious where that theme is, and it's a slight variation. It's not the exact theme right off the bat. It kind of evolves into it. It simplifies it a bit at first, and then it gets back into having all of the notes involved and keeping the actual motif intact. But having just a single voice makes it feel like somebody who's reflecting on something in their past. That feels so much more personal, having just one singular voice do it. It's the same reason why everyone loves and remembers that one little song that had like that little boy's story attached to it. Again, bad with names here, but I remember that song. I remember that theme. And it's very similar in approach to this, how you have that one singular voice breaking through the rest of the music to be able to shine and showcase just that main motif and really take those heartstrings and just yank them as hard as he can. And I feel like they might have borrowed that in this case because it's so similar from that other song and that approach that Yu Ping Chen did, and it's just a great way to appropriate that into a new storyline moment. And I'm pretty positive that since it sounds so familiar and the approach was so close, that it probably does have to do with somebody losing somebody in the story here, and that song being played at the moment of their funeral or something like that. I would not be surprised if that were the case at all. It's exactly what they want to pull from you, and having those sorts of emotional shifts in music right when something big happens, it's the same reason why everybody remembers the song from Up, you know, like that song at the beginning, the montage, and then when Carl's sitting there alone at the altar after the funeral, it's like, spoilers by the way, it's very much the same approach. Spoilers for a movie from what, 2008? But it's very much that same approach. You shift it slightly as the song moves forward and the pieces start to fall into place, and then you hit them with one final emotional tug at the strings in the hopes that you reach that emotional core in that moment. You hope that you've built a relationship over that small amount of time you spent together with these characters, that you're going to remember them fondly in some way, shape, or form. And this song does that beautifully. But also there's that flightiness, that happiness that kind of exists through this whole song. The cello is in there, the violins are in there, but there's also this like dancey, flighty, wind-like sound, and I'm not entirely sure why the wind is there. I assume it has something to do with the character revolving around wind. There are certain sweeps and note changes that are pretty characteristic of just wind. It's one of those thematic things that composers have held on to and championed through the years, that has just become the norm in music composition. But these sorts of sweeps and these climbs and falls all over the place makes you feel like there's wind all around you. So it's either somebody standing on top of a mountain or a hill and just looking over an open landscape, but there's also something so serene and peaceful about it too. Like, it's not a bad sound. It's not like there's a storm about to come. It's not an aggressive wind. It's a calm, gentle wind that flows with the natural layout of the land, and you just kind of breathe in and you need to take a deep breath and remember the good times. You know, it's a very similar approach. I do not remember the character's name, but there was this like forest god character, this like, she looked like a little girl and was basically like a forest nymph. Like, her theme had a very similar approach as far as that goes, having this like more mystical sound and feel to it overall. And while I don't think that this is from the same area, it does have a similar approach to keeping that flighty happiness about it. There's a bounce to it, like I said in the reaction, and it doesn't feel sad. So even though this song might shift to that sort of a thing, I feel like overall overall the song is probably meant to be a positive recollection of whatever had happened prior, and then hits you in the face with the reality of the situation, perhaps. I would use this for a trailer personally. I think this would sound beautiful and would be able to cover a storyline that's pretty happy but also has an unfortunate ending very well. That's what I would approach it as. But I think that's about all I gotta say for this one, so thank you all so very much for watching. Of course, if you have any other songs you want me to get to, as always, leave them in the comments below and I will do my best to get to them. I am not going to be restricting Harshit from getting his comment as the top next time. I only did that for this one. I wanted somebody else to have the reins on the choice. But if you want to follow me and support me for all those videos in the future that are sure to come, you know how to do that, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!